Thus we see in history a regular alternation of ebb and flow in the tide of human progress. The great kingdoms and empires of the world, after reaching the culmination of their greatness, descend again in accordance with the same law by which they ascended, till having reached the lowest point, humanity reasserts itself and mounts up once more, the height of its attainment being, by this law of ascending progression by cycles, somewhat higher than the point from which it had before descended.
But these cycles, wheels within wheels so comprehensively and ingeniously symbolized by the various Manus and Rishis in India and by the Kabiri in the West, do not affect all mankind at one and the same time, as explained in the racial division of cycles. Hence, as we see, the difficulty of comprehending and discriminating between them with regard to their physical and spiritual effects, without having thoroughly mastered their relations with and actions upon their respective positions of nations and races in their destiny and evolution.
This system cannot be comprehended if the spiritual action of these periods, preordained, so to say, by karmic law, is separated from their physical course. The calculations of the best astrologers would fail, or at any rate remain imperfect, unless this dual action is thoroughly taken into consideration and dealt with upon these lines, and this mastery can be achieved only through initiation.
The grand cycle includes the progress of mankind from the appearance of primordial man of ethereal form. It runs through the inner cycles of his or man's progressive evolution from the ethereal down to the semi-ethereal and purely physical, down to the redemption of man from his coat of skin and matter, after which it continues running its course downward and then upward again, to meet at the culmination of a round, when the Manvantarik, or serpent swallows its tail, and 7 minor cycles are passed.
These are the great racial cycles which affect equally all the nations and tribes included in that special race. But there are minor and national as well as tribal cycles within those which run independently of each other. They are called in the Eastern esotericism the karmic cycles. In the West, the full significance of the Greek nemesis or karma has been entirely forgotten. Otherwise, Christians would have better realized the profound truth that nemesis is without attributes, that while the dreaded goddess is absolute and immutable as a principle, it is we ourselves, nations and individuals, who propel her to action and give the impulse to its direction.
Karma-Nemesis is the creator of nations and mortals, but once created, it is they who make of her either a fury or a rewarding angel. Yea, wise are they who worship Nemesis, as the chorus tells Prometheus, and as unwise they who believe that the goddess may be propitiated by whatever sacrifices and prayers, or have her wheel diverted from the path it has once taken. The triform fates and ever-mindful furies are her attributes only on earth, and begotten by ourselves. There is no return from the paths she cycles over, yet those paths are of our own making, for it is we, collectively or individually, who prepare them.
Karma-Nemesis is the synonym of providence, minus design, goodness and every other finite attribute and qualification so unphilosophically attributed to the latter. An occultist or a philosopher will not speak of the goodness or cruelty of providence, but identifying it with Karma-Nemesis, he will teach that nevertheless it guards the good and watches over them in this as in future lives, and that it punishes the evildoer, aye, even to his 7th rebirth, so long, in short, as the effect of his having thrown into perturbation even the smallest atom in the infinite world of harmony has not been finally readjusted.
For the only decree of karma or retribution, an eternal and immutable decree, is absolute harmony in the world of matter as it is in the world of spirit. It is not, therefore, karma or retribution that rewards or punishes, but it is we who reward or punish ourselves according to whether we work with, through, and along with nature, abiding by the laws on which harmony depends, or break them. Nor would the ways of karma or retribution be inscrutable were meant to work in union and harmony instead of disunion and strife.
For our ignorance of those ways, which one portion of mankind calls the ways of providence, dark and intricate, while another sees in them the action of blind fatalism, and a third simple chance, with neither gods nor devils to guide them, would surely disappear if we would but attribute all these to their correct course, with right knowledge, or at any rate with a confident conviction that our neighbours will no more work to hurt us than we would think of harming them. The 2/3 of the world's evil would vanish into thin air.
Were no man to hurt his brother, Karma-Nemesis would have neither cause to work for, nor weapons to act through. It is the constant presence in our midst of every element of strife and opposition, and the division of races, nations, tribes, societies, and individuals into Cains and Abels, wolves and lambs, that is the chief cause of the ways of providence. We cut these numerous windings in our destinies daily with our own hands, while we imagine that we are pursuing a track on the royal highroad of respectability and duty, and then complain of those ways being so intricate and so dark.
We stand bewildered before the mystery of our own making, and the riddles of life that we will not solve, and then accuse the great Sphinx of devouring us. But verily there is not an accident in our lives, not a misshapen day or a misfortune that could not be traced back to our own doings in this or in another life. If one breaks the law of harmony, or as a theosophical writer expresses it, the laws of life, one must be prepared to fall into the chaos one has oneself produced. For according to the same writer, the only conclusion one can come to is that these laws of life are their own avengers, and consequently that every avenging angel is only a typified representation of their reaction.
Therefore, if anyone is helpless before these immutable laws, it is not ourselves the artificers of our destinies, but rather those angels, the guardians of harmony. Karma-Nemesis is no more than the spiritual dynamical effect of causes produced and forces awakened into activity by our own actions. It is a law of occult dynamics that a given amount of energy expended on the spiritual or astral plane is productive of far greater results than the same amount expended on the physical objective plane of existence.
This state will last till man's spiritual intuitions are fully opened, which will not happen before we fairly cast off our thick coat of matter, until we begin acting from within instead of ever following impulses from without, namely those produced by our physical senses and gross selfish body. Until then, the only palliative to the evils of life is union and harmony, a brotherhood in actu, and altruism not simply a name. The suppression of one single bad cause will suppress not one, but a variety of bad effects.
Unity in thought and action, and philosophical research into the mysteries of being, will always prevent some, while trying to comprehend that which has hitherto remained to them a riddle, from creating additional causes in a world already so full of woe and evil. Knowledge of karma, or retribution, gives the conviction that if virtue in distress and vice in triumph make atheists of mankind, it is only because that mankind has ever shut its eyes to the great truth that man is himself his own savior as his own destroyer.
That he need not accuse heaven and the gods, fate and providence of the apparent injustice that reigns in the midst of humanity, but let him rather remember and repeat this bit of Grecian wisdom, which warns man to forbear accusing that which, just though mysterious, leads us on unerring through ways unmarked from guilt to punishment. Modern wisdom is satisfied with astronomical computations and prophecies based on unerring mathematical laws.
Ancient wisdom added to the cold shell of astronomy the vivifying elements of its soul and spirit, astrology. And as the sidereal motions do regulate and determine other events on Earth, besides potatoes and the periodical disease of that useful vegetable, those events have to be allowed to find themselves predetermined by even simple astronomical computations. Believers in astrology will understand our meaning. Skeptics will laugh at the belief and mock the idea. Thus, they shut their eyes, ostrich-like, to their own fate. We appreciate your compassionate presence for today's episode of Between Master and Disciples. Planet Earth, our loving home, is coming up next after noteworthy news. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. May you and your loved ones be blessed with the wisdom of heaven.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/BMD